Hello everyone, Steve from Forged here, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to play my game Arctic Survival. Arctic Survival is a game of predator and prey set in the tundra, where one team chooses to play as the foxes and one team chooses to play as the lemmings. The goal of the fox team is to capture the lemmings, and the goal of the lemming team is to find food and water and bring it back to their den. Setup. Decide who will play as the foxes and who will play as the lemmings. Place the lemming mini-map in front of the lemming player or players, and then arrange the tundra cards in the following pattern. Place the rocky cards in a row of 5 closest to the lemming player. This is known as the lemming zone. Then place the double-sided either snow cards or footprint side cards in the following pattern. So face down, these 3, face up, these 3, face down, face up, face down. So face up is the footprint side with the hole in the middle, and face down is just the snow card for the tundra cards. So these middle 3 rows here are known as the danger zone, and then this last row here that has the river running through it and the trees is known as the fox zone. Once you have it set up like this, then there's 2 remaining cards, tundra cards, to place. So have the fox player close their eyes as the lemming player secretly hides their burrow card in one of the 5 spots closest to them. Then the fox player may open their eyes, have the fox player choose the location of their den card in one of the 5 cards of the row closest to them. Fox players place their fox player tokens on top of their den card, and then while the lemming player closes their eyes, the fox player places their den to match the spot where they chose their den on this map here. They then hide these 4 mini tiles, food, water, wings, and shell, face down, in choosing where they want to place them on top of the minimap denoting the fox zone. As such. They can then also use the pawns to mark their location on the minimap. So each square on the minimap corresponds to a card on the tundra cards. So this square corresponds to this square here, this square corresponds to this square, so on and so forth. For all purposes of the game, the squares on the minimap are considered to be underneath the squares on the tundra cards. So if there's a token here, it would be considered under the snow here. At this point, the lemming players can open their eyes. They would then move this screen in front of the minimap, so the fox player can no longer see what's happening. I'm just going to keep the screen away just for the purposes of this tutorial video, but know that the screen will be there now. So the fox player cannot see what the lemming player is doing. The lemming player is going to mark where they hid their den using the burrow tile, where they hid their burrow. They're then going to place their 2 lemming tokens on top of that burrow to start the game. They are going to hide these tokens, which stand for shifting snows and calm clear night, somewhere in the lemming zone, so the 5 rocky tiles. They can't place them both on the same one. It has to be on different ones. They're also going to hide the polar bear paw print token and the Carrion Beetle token somewhere in one of the 3 columns that is currently face down. So this column, or this column. And the polar bear and carrion beetle large carrion beetle are placed off to the side to begin the game. And with that, the game is set up and ready to start. So the lemming objective is to find the food and water and bring it back to their den. They begin their turn by rolling the 2 4-sided dice to determine the number of moves that their lemmings can make. So they assign 1 dice to each lemming, and that is the maximum number of squares that lemming can move for that turn. So with a roll of 4 and 3, 1 lemming can move up to 4 squares, and 1 lemming can move up to 3 squares. They move by going 1 square at a time and choosing to move forward, backwards, left, or right. They cannot move diagonally in one move. So with a roll of 4, a lemming could do something like 1, 2, 3, 4. So moving there, 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 and there. And with a roll of 3, this lemming may move 1, 2, 3. Remember that these squares here are underneath these squares over here. So any card that is in the face-up position in the danger zone, so these footprint cards, that the lemming passes through or ends their turn on, must be flipped to the face-down position. So this card and this card are flipped to the face-down position to represent the lemming digging a new tunnel underneath the snow. And then this lemming moved to here, so this one is also flipped over. The lemmings, when they're moving, cannot move underneath a fox on the board. So they would have to go around this fox in this case. If a lemming reaches the fox zone and is moving through or ending their turn on these cards here, they flip over the corresponding tiles to see what's underneath the snow. So they may find an adaptation, which we'll talk about later, so that's the wings of the shell, or they may find the food or water. So they would flip over these to determine what they find, and they can flip over any number of them as they're moving through them. Once they find the food or water, they then take that token and place it with their lemming, and the lemming is considered carrying that food or water token at that time. A lemming may only carry the food or the water, they cannot carry both. So the fox objective is to find and capture both lemmings. A lemming is considered captured when a fox moves to the tundra card above the square that the lemming is on the mini-map. That lemming is then considered captured and removed from the game. Foxes begin their turn in the same way that lemmings do, in that they roll both 4-sided dice to get the maximum number of rolls, to get the maximum number of moves that each fox can make. So in this case, a 3 and a 4, one fox can move 3 and one fox can move 4. Foxes have 2 actions, a listen action and a move action, which they can use interchangeably between each other and with themselves as well. So for a listen action, a fox will indicate one line beginning from the square that they're on. Can be a diagonal line or a straight line, doesn't matter. And they will listen down that line. The lemming players, if there is any lemmings hiding under the tundra cards in that line, must indicate that to the fox player. They don't need to say where the lemming is hiding or how many lemmings there are, but they do need to tell them that yes, there is a lemming there, or no, there is not a lemming there. So in this case, if a fox listens down this way, the lemming players would say yes, there is a lemming there because there's a lemming hiding under this square. If this fox listened this way, they would say no, there's no lemming there because there's no lemmings hiding underneath either of these cards. For the move action, foxes again can move 1 square at a time, forward, backwards, left, or right, up to the maximum number rolled that's assigned to their fox. So with a roll of 3, this fox can move 1, 2, 3 if it wanted. When a fox reaches a square in the danger zone, they flip over the last card they land on to simulate it pouncing on that spot and looking underneath the snow. So they flip it over. If a lemming was there, the lemming players would tell the fox player that, and that lemming would be removed from the game. If the lemming is traveling and finds the wings or shell tile, they take the corresponding token and place it on top of their lemming. Each of these adaptations grant the lemming a special ability that can only be used once by the lemming. The lemming may only carry one adaptation at a time. So the wings allows the lemming to, at one point, re-roll the dice and add that to their total movement. So if a lemming gets there in 2 squares, decides to use their re-roll, they re-roll the dice and get a 3, they can then move 3 additional squares that turn. They don't have to use it that turn, they can use it at any point in the game, but once it's used, it's done, the token's removed and cannot be used again. The shell adaptation grants the lemming immunity from being captured by any token on the board until their following turn. So if a fox were to land on this tundra card, normally the lemming would be captured, but because the lemming has the shell, instead of being captured, they discard the shell token and they live to fight another day. In this scenario, if a lemming is underneath the fox token, they must leave it that square the next turn. Similar to the adaptations for the lemmings, the natural events are items or powers which can help the fox to capture the lemmings. There are 2 adaptations, one called Calm Clear Night, which is represented by the blue token, and one called Shifting Snows, represented by the white token. There are corresponding reference cards to aid you if you don't know what the ability is. So if the fox player reaches the lemming zone and searches under this tile here, the lemming players would tell them they have found one of their abilities. In this case, it is the Calm Clear Night, which grants the fox, at one point in the game, if they discard that token, to learn the locations of both lemmings at the end of their turn. So they discard this, declare they're using Calm Clear Night, and the lemming player would tell the fox player where both lemmings are on the board. The other ability the foxes can find is the Shifting Snows ability. The Shifting Snows ability allows the fox player to pull the lemming 1 square closer to them in any straight line. So if a lemming were here, the fox player could pull the lemming to their square. Or let's say they want to pull them along a diagonal, the lemming is here, it would get pulled towards the fox 1 square to here. When a lemming is pulled onto a face-up tile, it is turned face down, just as it would when they're digging tunnels. If during the game, the fox player flips over the tundra card that corresponds to where the polar bear paw print token was hidden by the lemming player, then that means that after the fox's following next turn, that the polar bear is going to come into play. So after the polar bear paw print token is found, lemming players will tell that to the fox players. Then fox players will finish that turn. Lemming players will have their turn. Then fox players will have another turn to possibly get away from the polar bear. And then after that turn, the polar bear comes into play, beginning on the tundra card above the polar bear paw print token. Polar bear is an extra token used by the lemming players. It takes its turn after the fox's turn, and they move by rolling the dice to get the maximum number of tundra cards that the polar bear can move on. The polar bear is aiding the lemming players and also trying to capture the foxes. The polar bear may only move on the face-up tundra cards in the danger zone. So with a roll of 2, they're kind of limited to this range in here. This range is out of bounds for them because they can only move forward, backwards, left, or right. Same as the foxes and lemmings. So with a roll of 2, they can move here and here. If a polar bear reaches a square that has a fox, then the fox is captured and removed from the game. Lemming players may not move underneath the polar bear, similar to they can't move underneath the foxes. If a fox player flips over the tundra card, which is above where the Carrion Beetle was hidden by the lemming player at the start of the game, then after that fox's turn, and the polar bear if it's active, the Carrion Beetle is going to come into play. The Carrion Beetle has unique movement, unlike the other tokens, in that you roll the dice and it will move by skipping every other square. So with a roll of 3, it would move, skip this one, move here, so 1, skip this one, move here, 2, skip this one, move here, 3. It could also move in a straight line that way. So for instance here, it could go skip this one, move here, skip this one, move here, skip this one, move here. The Carrion Beetle is operated by the fox players, and it can capture the polar bear token. So if the Carrion Beetle reaches the square that the polar bear is on, then both tokens are removed from the game. They can then be reactivated if the fox player turns over this tundra card again. Similar to the polar bear, lemmings cannot pass underneath the Carrion Beetle. If the Carrion Beetle moves to a square that the lemming player is underneath, the lemming player is not captured, but that token must leave that square the following turn. They cannot remain underneath the Carrion Beetle. If the fox player finds the lemming burrow and finds a lemming inside that burrow, the lemming is safe for that turn, but must leave the burrow card on the following turn. Lemming players may move through or end their turn on unactivated Carrion Beetle and polar bear paw print tokens on their mini-map without it affecting anything in the gameplay. The number rolled is the maximum number of squares that the tokens can move. Tokens may choose to move 0 spaces if they want. The one exception being is that if a fox player is on top of a food or water or the lemming burrow tile, then they must leave that square the following turn. They cannot remain on that square. When rolling for one token, both dice are still rolled, and the player may choose which number to assign to their remaining piece. Lemming players may occupy the same square, just as fox players may also occupy the same square. There's no issue there. If a lemming player is captured while holding the food or water, the food or water remains in place where the lemming was captured and must be retrieved by the last remaining lemming. When a lemming is moving through spots in the lemming zone or spots in the fox zone, the tundra cards are not flipped. They're only flipped if they are in the face-up position and in the danger zone, so that middle 3 rows. Similarly, foxes only pounce and flip over the card in the danger zone. A fox may still pounce in the lemming zone or pounce in the fox zone, but those cards don't need to be flipped over. If a fox pounces in the fox zone, the lemming player must indicate to them if the item hidden underneath those tundra cards has been removed or not. So in this case, if the fox pounces here and the lemming player has already taken the wings, they would say that there's nothing there anymore. That's it for the rules. So now you are able to start your own game of Archpick Survival. Thanks for watching.